Hello, Alison.
Hi, Lisa.
Well, Alison is somebody that we could have a podcast and probably chat for a couple hours about everything group practice and
other things.
Yep. We actually get together and talk once a week and just supporting each other as therapists, group practice owners, and in the support that we give to therapists and group practice owners. But I thought it would be good. We're going to have you on here multiple times. But as the podcast is starting, I thought just get a little picture of who you are, your role as a group practice owner and how you support people, and just get to know you. One of the things that I want from this podcast is for other group practice owners to know that they're not alone, and that leadership looks different for everybody. It's not a one size fits all for everyone. And yeah, we've talked about like there's no cookie cutter approach to any of this, I don't think. Having the systems in place, but also we're all so different. So let's hear a little bit about you. A couple of the questions: how long have you been a therapist? What got you into being a group practice owner? How long has that been going? And then I'll follow up with some questions after that.
Sure. Okay. So I've been a therapist in private practice for about 15 years or so. And before that, I've been a social worker for over 30 years. So that kind of is important because working in the community and for agencies, the shift to private practice was easy and difficult at the same time, meaning from a clinical point of view, I had done a lot of hard things in the community. I worked in corrections, domestic violence, all kinds of things that were really helped me strengthen my clinical skills, my documentation skills, just dealing with people skills. And then going into private practice as a social worker, the learning curve of business and therapy, or the business of therapy, is something that I really had to learn. And I think I still do continue to learn, of figuring out how to balance the social worker in me, but also what I call the capitalist social worker in me, and not being unapologetic about earning money. Because I think any of the social workers listening will know that there's this kind of pervasive messaging about private practice and making money and on mental health, etc. And it's really a philosophical or values thing. So that being said, I've been in private practice, never looked back. I love what I do. And then I call myself an accidental group practice owner because I did not get into this with the goal of owning a group practice. Like a lot of people, I started as an associate in a group practice and then just felt that it was time for me to open my own and do things on my own term. And like a lot of people, I'm sure listening, I had no idea what that really meant. And I've really learned as I went along, learned some hard lessons, which we can talk about today. And then now I'm at a place where I feel like I'm kind of describing it in a state of flux with my practice. I'm just in the process of doing some contract negotiations. I had a couple of people leave and have had to decide where I'm at as a group practice owner. It coincided with renting a bigger space. So I'm kind of like, well, I'm here now. But really looking at this time with contracts in terms of how I value myself and my time and energy, and how I can create an environment where it's not just about people coming and doing the usual split and me hoping it works. And, not resenting that I feel like I'm the hardest working person in the place and not feeling appreciated. And again, a lot of the feels that I'm sure a lot of the people listening can appreciate. So that's kind of where I'm at in the middle of that. I'm maybe in the home stretch of it. And I still see clients and I still love doing that. So it's always just a process of figuring out ADHD. So figuring out where my time goes and then my energy goes, and trying not to run out of racetrack with the multiple balls I have in the air each week. So moderately chaotic, yes, probably for some. I kind of operate at that frequency. And again, I think just to finish off that intro piece is just, I want to underline the power of connection in this role. I do coaching with therapists as well and work with therapists and try to support people in working smarter and not harder, I call it. But the thing I've learned most is like, if you say you're alone or feeling lonely as a therapist, you're doing it wrong. Because we need to turn to each other as therapists, whether you're an individual or a group practice owner. And for me, I probably would have thrown in the towel as a GPO had I not met you and had I not met the people that you had in the first mastermind we did way back then, because it was just so gratifying to know I wasn't alone in all of these stressors and the negative self-talk and doubt and the why the heck am I doing this moments. So I kind of look at that as a big part of the evolution of my career as a GPO and also navigating those relationships as a fellow therapist.
One of the questions, I don't know if we've actually talked about, is you joined one of the masterminds and started your group practice. Do you ever wish you hadn't started a group practice back then?
Depends on the day. It's a hard question for me to answer. I definitely don't think I fall in the category of like, I'm 100% all in as a GPO every day of the week. And maybe that person doesn't exist. Yeah. Because I think being who I am, I've learned a lot about who I am in terms of how I handle feedback and just my emotional regulation around being a leader. And I'm very quick to just go, yep, that hurt. Don't want to do that again. Very black and white sometimes to protect myself. And knowing as a leader, I hate the term like develop a thick skin, but I've really had to figure out, and I'm still figuring out how to do that. And part of that is my own therapy. Part of that is connecting with other therapists. Part of that is just trying to be more reflective rather than reactive and doing all the things I tell my clients to take a breath, buy some time. Yeah. So the answer is, I don't know. I don't think I'd be the therapist I am or the person I am had I not become a GPO. Okay. And I imagine, this is what I tell myself, had I not, I probably would have made my way here somehow anyway, because I would have seen how the therapy landscape has changed so much in the past several years. Yes. When I started, being a group practice owner wasn't much of a thing. Like a lot of people were just solo or maybe 2 or 3 folks working together, sharing a space. Yeah. So as that's evolved, I think the ambitious part of myself and but competitive part of myself would have went, well, I can do that. Yeah. So I think I probably would have gotten here just through a different path.
Okay. When you think about yourself as a leader, how would you describe that role for you? Because I think, like you called yourself an accidental group practice owner, talking about, getting support around you. So now you're in your group practice, you're leading, people are looking for you, to you for direction within your practice. And as you're connecting with other people, what's a way that you would describe yourself as a leader?
I think that's been an evolution as well. I think I entered this as wanting to be a very collaborative leader, which really is not a leader, in that I wanted to make sure people were happy and the practice met their needs, and empathizing with people who were on a similar path that I had been, meaning I'd worked in agency for years and knew I wanted to be in private practice, and I was really afraid to take that leap. Finally did, was happy that I did, and never looked back. And I wanted to support other people on that journey. However, I was really naive in figuring out what that looked like from a business perspective. Well, I didn't even think about what that looked like from a business perspective. I really looked at things from a clinical satisfaction and helping people perspective, which we know doesn't pay the bills. So I have had and do have some great people on my team. But I think as I've evolved, I've become far more clear on what the leadership role looks like, meaning I have to look at what's good for me and not burn out, because I've been in that position, and not encounter the self-talk around that. Because I'm an opinionated person. I have no problem leading in the context, like I teach a lot, that kind of leading, no problem. It's more when I'm working on finding that balance about being respectful and collaborative, but also having to deliver hard messages or having to come up against something that, you know, I didn't think there'd be opposition to this concept, and there is. How do I deal with that?
Yeah.
That's all the emotions that come with that. So really learning how to kind of quote unquote own being a leader, it has been and is a something I'm always cognizant of. Because being a leader of a practice is very different than being a leader in other areas of your life.
Yeah. Like how you said earlier too, like it's being a group practice owner has changed how you show up as a therapist, how you show up as a leader. And the person that you are when you start a group practice is not the person you are 2 years down the road or 3 years down the road. You change, you learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And I think even as we have walked along that path, seeing you step into, okay, so how does this business work for me? And not in a selfish way, but if it's not working for me, I'm not showing up the way that I want to as a leader, which is not what you started out. You said you started out like all the, for lack of a better word, altruism. Let's support people, clients, and therapists. But if I'm burned out, I can't do that. So you had to grow and change along the way.
And that's been the hardest part, because I think I've had some really, really difficult relationship ruptures and trust issues, and feeling like people don't appreciate how much I sacrifice in my own life. And again, I mean, you know, you don't expect people to get it, but when you feel like, you know, the messaging is misconstrued, or you're not feeling appreciated, or asks that feel really out to lunch, or that your messaging for some reason or another isn't clear, those are the things that are just really, really tough, that do have an impact on all parts of your life. Yeah. Meaning my family, just balance, i.e. last night, I got home an hour later than I had projected. My team and my clients, like I really have to, as a professional, step aside from some of those emotional pieces of the GPO hat and then put on the therapist hat, which 9 times out of 10 I find is really, that's probably the easiest thing, because that is like not about me, it's my professionalism. But it's those more quiet moments, try not to wake up at 2 a.m. and think about these things, or, you know, in the car, driving home, like just, you know, I think therapists themselves are pretty good ruminators, because we try to do that in a good way for our clients. But with our own stuff, we tend to be, in my small sample size of therapists I know, self-critical. So that's a taxing part of the work. And then when you have issues with relationships and trust being violated, I've gone down some pretty dark roads with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. One of the things that I think I have appreciated about you, and we've been chatting for 7 or 8 years as colleagues and grown into friends, but just as we're talking with each other, as we're doing retreats, as you're sharing your passion, is just about keeping it real. That this is a really cool role to have as a group practice owner or as a therapist, and there's so many good things about it, but it's not all a bed of roses. And some of it is hard, and a lot of it is like puzzle pieces and figuring that all out, and sometimes that's energizing and sometimes that isn't. If you were to talk to somebody who's just getting started with a group practice, what would be one thing that you would want them to know?
Oh, so many things. In a sense, it's not easy. I mean, it's not passive income. That's ridiculous. It's not a cash cow if you're doing it right, because I think that's the piece too. There's so much messaging around just hire more associates, just spend this on ads. And it's more than that, in my opinion. And if for me to lead in line with my values, I have to see associates as humans. And I also am I don't negotiate on bringing people on board who I would bring my own family members to see or recommend to a friend. So, I mean, we know so much about our associates clinically. We don't necessarily know what goes on behind the closed doors, but I have to rely heavily on that gut feeling that this person is here to do good work. And I often say, and earning good money for that work is the fringe benefit to being in private practice. And that to me is it's just a non-negotiable thing that has to guide me and guide me in my own work, both as a clinician and as a leader.
Yeah. Just keeping an eye on time here, because you and I have a time limit. We could, like I said, we could keep chatting forever. And we're going to have more conversations. But I know I want you to share a little bit about the Practice Companion and what you do in there for group practice owners.
Sure. So that's kind of, the Practice Companion has been a labor of love. I guess I'd characterize it as a side hustle. But it's something I love doing, and I am really working hard to make more time to do it and follow through with the ideas I have. It started by just, again, wanting to help people on the path. It's the empathic piece. I know it's hard to start a practice and not know what you're doing. So I do teach a 2-day workshop at Wilfrid Laurier, which is a university near me in Southern Ontario, because there's so many people that want to kind of, take away some of the uncertainty and tick the boxes of, the tangible, what do I do kind of thing with money and et cetera. But the thing that has really kind of taken off for me is just helping people fill in the blanks of the stuff you don't learn in school. So for all clinicians, I mean, again, my work in agency helped me learn about documentation practices and admin and legal and all those kind of things. So I'm trying to put together products, really things people can listen to, workshops, etc., to help them get some confidence in those things that they may lose sleep at night in their clinical work. So then really just translating that to group practice owners. Because of you, I've had a lot of contact with some amazing group practice owners, and I started to notice that the same narratives were coming up. I worry about my team and their administrative practices. I worry about my support staff knowing how to deal with the stuff that you may encounter in a therapy office waiting room. So I really wanted to translate the stuff that lights me up as a therapist, as a supervisor, as a teacher to help GPOs. So one of the things I'm launching now is a fractional group practice owner. So really coming
clinical director.
Or to say group practice owner? Oh, yes, clinical director. No, there's no such thing as a fractional group practice owner. Let's be clear. Clinical director, because group practice owners taking on that role, I mean, I heard just repeatedly how difficult it is from just wearing the hats and taking ownership of, providing that guidance from the clinical perspective.
Yeah.
So wanting to be, and through the practice contacts I've had, jokingly, but kind of seriously saying, I can come in and deliver messages to other people's teams, and it's like a teacher with your kid at school, and they tell your kid's so well behaved and they listen, and you're like, they don't do that at home.
Yeah.
It's been the same type of thing. How can I help an owner by coming in and reinforcing the things they're likely already saying, but be a fresh voice in that and reassuring to people as they're learning and developing? So that's the stuff that I'm really trying to provide my colleagues and new therapists. It's kind of a best way to work with both as the fractional clinical director. And again, just incorporating all those nuts and bolts pieces that we don't learn in school.
Yeah. Awesome. We're going to have to wrap up, but we're going to include a link to the Practice Companion and a little bit of your bio in the show notes and stuff. So if you are listening to this podcast episode and something about Alison has tweaked with you, either as a group practice owner or getting support for your team, feel free to reach out to either one of us. I provide the support through Group Practice Network. Alison's got support for group practice owners in the Practice Companion, and lots of the word practice right there in that sentence. And would love to have you like, follow, and share this episode and this show. And we'll have more of Alison in the future. Thanks for checking in, Alison.
Well, thanks for having me. I look forward to coming back.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging out with me on Empowered to Lead, the therapist practice. If you're ready for deeper support, I'd love to see you inside the Group Practice Connection, my monthly membership where Canadian therapists like you get coaching, community, and the tools to build a business that actually supports your life. You can check it out at grouppracticenetwork.ca. We're building something great here, and I'm so glad you're a part of it.
This is Michelle Abraham, and we are honored to have Lisa Catallo's Empowered to Lead podcast on our High Vibe Podcast Network. For more shows like hers and to grab your free gift from the gift fold, head on over to highvibepodcastnetwork.com.